Hi, Janet. Hi, Catherine. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, how are you?
Fine. How are you? Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll give it another minute or so. I know we'll have some others join us, so we'll kick things off here in just a second. Hi, Amy. All right, let's go ahead and get things kicked off tonight. Thank you all so much for joining us. We'll have, I'm sure we'll have some others join as well, so I will admit people as they sign on. My name is Nancy Toohill. I am the peer facilitator for the Triple Negative Breast Cancer Let's Talk About It group. I was treated for triple negative breast cancer back in 2015, so I'm very well-versed in understanding of all of the issues therein. And it is my pleasure tonight to feature a program called Managing Anxiety with Meditation, featuring Victoria Rego. I would like to ask that all participants stay muted during Victoria's presentation, and we'll have an opportunity for Q&A after. She's got about a 35 to 45-minute presentation, and then I will facilitate Q&A through the chat. So if you have questions at any point during the presentation, please feel free to put them in the chat. And Janet, absolutely, we're very glad to have you. Please feel free to put your questions and comments in the chat. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Victoria. Victoria Rego is a certified Reiki master, writer, poet, and triple negative breast cancer survivor and advocate. She's the author of several articles, including Kickboxing Your Way Through Chemo, a personal story of how maintaining her fitness lifestyle helped during treatment. She is also the founder of Enlightened Victories Healing, where she conducts in-person and online healing sessions, as well as workshops around the topic of healing from trauma and coping with anxiety. So I will turn it over to Vicki. We are so glad to have you here tonight. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, and thank you for having me. I'm going to try not to let my anxiety get to me today. Yeah, so I am also a triple negative survivor, but I'm going to go ahead and start my presentation before I even get into any of that, but I'm very happy to be here, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And can everybody see that okay?
It's just starting to come through. Now we can. Yep.
Okay. So welcome to Meditation and Breast Cancer. It's healing the mind to heal the body. And again, I'm Victoria Rego. I am a Reiki master, a Ho'oponopono practitioner, meditation foundations teacher, poet, writer, triple negative survivor, advocate, and so many other things. I was diagnosed with stage 2 triple negative breast cancer in June of 2017. And this past April, my oncologist officially moved me over to the survivorship program after several little scares that thankfully turned out to be nothing. So we're here tonight to talk about anxiety and what it does to us and what it is and how meditation can help us cope with anxiety. And so what is anxiety, right? The Merriam-Webster dictionary defines anxiety as an apprehensive uneasiness or nervousness, usually over an impending or anticipated illness or situation. It's just a state of being anxious. One of my lovely textbooks, The Comprehensive Stress Management, defines anxiety as the unrealistic fear that manifests itself physically and behaviorally to avoid or escape triggers. My definition of anxiety is the inability to fully understand, accept, or cope with our emotional triggers and wounds. And that's what I generally focus on with my clients is, and myself in my own healing journey, is trying to understand what those emotional triggers are and how they manifest with us on a physical level, whether it's the nervous voice, the shaking, getting sweaty, not wanting to do anything. There's so many things that can trigger our anxiety and our emotional state. That being said, what does anxiety do when it triggers our nervous system? It pushes us into the fight, flight, or freeze, right? This is the body's response to fear and anxiety. And fear really is just another word that we use to express anxiety. And it comes from not knowing, right? Not knowing what is going to happen, not understanding our situation. When it comes to breast cancer, it's not knowing why this happened, or especially triple negative, right? Not knowing why it happened, not knowing how treatment is going to impact us, the not knowing after treatment ends, and just kind of, as we all know, it kind of sit waiting and hoping that nothing else happens afterwards. And all of this comes from anxiety. And it's been my belief since my diagnosis that once you're diagnosed, you should automatically be given 6 therapy sessions to help you deal strictly with that anxiety that comes from diagnosis. But one of the main ways I managed to deal with it, besides kickboxing, which was a big benefit for me during my treatment, was learning to meditate. And that happened because I got burnt out, and one of my doctors was kind enough to introduce me to it. So when we cope with anxiety, there are lots of different ways to do it, but the first and foremost is self-care, right? If we don't take care of ourselves, we cannot take care of other people because we are not in our top form, right? And yes, you can be functional, but you cannot give from an empty cup. So working with anxiety and taking care of yourself is so important. Self-care includes being physical, right? Getting that exercise, going for a walk, doing yoga, kickboxing, running, whatever feels good to you, changing your eating habits. Everybody knows about stress eating. There are lots of stories about how trigger feeds cancer. There's a lot of debate about that. The main thing with eating is having moderation, but trying to eat healthy foods, right? We want to have more fruits, more vegetables, more of a plant-based diet, not necessarily vegan or vegetarian. I would never push anything on anybody else. I personally am not. But we do have more of a plant-based diet, right? Listening to music. Music has been proven to reduce anxiety, to change your moods. Listening to certain frequencies actually changes the energy level in your body and can help to not only relieve stress and anxiety, but can also change your DNA on certain levels. There are a lot of studies that have been shown this. Look for creative outlets, and writing is one of those, right? I'm a writer. I wrote all through my treatment. I've been writing since I was a little kid. It's always been something that's helped me to deal with everything that was going on in my life, good or bad. But other creative outlets, painting, sculpting, drawing, anything that helps you transmute the anxiety into something positive. And that includes cooking. Cooking could be a very, very creative outlet. The other thing is breathing exercises, which we're going to go through as right before we do start the meditation that I have planned for you. Breathing exercises have been shown, just inhaling deeply into your diaphragm even once, that big sigh that you let out sometimes when you're frustrated, that automatically reduces your blood pressure and improves your anxiety levels. Understanding that it's not selfish to put your needs first. It's the first step improving your overall health is the most important thing. And we as women, as mothers, we're taught to put everybody before us. We're taught, that we have to put our needs last, and that's not right. And when I say that it's not right, I don't mean that, it's just wrong in general. Is that, like I said before, if we do not take care of ourselves, we cannot give to other people, not to the best of our ability anyway, whether it's at home, with friends, or at work, right? Our top priority is supposed to be taking care of our overall health, mental, physical, spiritual. And these are some of the ways that you can do that. That being said, we're going to go on to the benefits of meditation, which first and foremost, is reducing stress levels. Meditation has been shown to decrease your blood pressure, control your anxiety, improve your sleep, improve your emotional health, increases your mental function, concentration, processing memory. Any of us who have had chemo knows about chemo brain. Meditation definitely helps to improve that. So does music. But meditation also improves self-awareness and a personal understanding of who we are and what we want. It can help you, sometimes it helps you change your career path. It just changes your life path. It makes you see certain things, certain behaviors in your life that you may or may not want to change, right? Or the better way to say that would be to see where your triggers are, right? So what is actually triggering your anxiety? The understanding that when we are anxious, we tend to take it out on other people, whether it's through yelling, or just crying, or just getting mad and walking away. There are so many ways that we take our anxieties and frustrations out on other people. Through meditation, you learn the triggers so you can then in turn understand not just where you're coming from, but where other people are coming from as well. So it helps to improve communication with other people. And to give you an example, I was speaking to somebody the other day, and they were very, very frustrated. They were taking it out on me. And I just asked them to stop. And I said, I appreciate that they were frustrated, but I did not appreciate them taking it out on me. And their response was to apologize because I was able to express how I was feeling in a clearer manner. And this is because I meditate. And when the days that I don't meditate, that doesn't happen. It just doesn't work out that well. But like I said, these are some of the many, many benefits of meditation. And at the end of this, I will offer you some resources to help you out with that. But we are going to go over a meditation. And before we do, I'm going to go back to that. What I want you guys to do is stand up and just move around a little bit, shake your arms out, go through some movements, just for a few seconds, just shake out a little bit. And then when you are ready, you can get yourself comfortable. Let's take a few deep breaths in through your nose. And when you do this, I want you to feel the breath going down into your belly, and I will do a count with you, and we'll give everybody a minute or two to get comfortable. And so again, I'm going to just take a deep breath in through your nose. I'm going to count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then exhale, also on a count of 4. And we'll do it again. Let's inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to share my screen again with this picture. You can feel free to look at the picture. Let's get this back into. Okay. And I'm going to see if this actually lets me pull up the other screen. Just bear with me one moment. Technology is not always our friend. Okay, can everybody still see the picture?
Yep.
Don't know what happened here. Okay, everybody can see the picture?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, sorry about that. My screen is going a little crazy here. Okay, so everybody just take those breaths. Make sure you're sitting comfortable. What I would like you to do is take your left hand and put it over your heart, and then take your right hand and put it on your belly just below your belly button. And these represent both your heart chakra and your sacral chakra, which are both chakras that have to do with relationships. So relationship with yourself and relationship with your outer world. Just close your eyes. And again, we're going to take another 3 deep breaths, inhaling through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. Let your stomach rise with each inhale. And when you're ready, after your 3rd exhale, I want you to imagine that you are standing at the edge of a great red oak forest. The trees are thick and vast before you, and you hear the forest calling you. As you take a deep breath and step closer to the trees, a path opens up, and an animal begins to walk towards you. You stop in your tracks, but aren't afraid because you know this animal is your spirit animal, here to guide you. You put your arms out to welcome your animal as they come to nuzzle you and nudge you onto the path that is now glowing a soft yellow light. As you walk, you begin to hear the voices of the animals in the forest urging you forward. They are singing at your presence and honoring the divinity that flows from you. Birds fly by your side, whispering prayers of healing and wisdom only you can understand. You stop and listen for a minute. So you look ahead and see that the path you are on opens to a lush clearing. And within the clearing is a lake with a white mist rising from the waters. At the edge of the lake, you see a fawn watching you. You step closer and follow the fawn into the cool waters of the lake until it reaches your waist. As you look around, you start to notice you're not alone with the animals. There's a being made of light walking through the water towards you. As they step closer, a feeling of peace flows through you. This being places their hands on your shoulders, and you hear a soft, healing prayer as they tell you, while your journey you traveled has been hard, it is now time to be renewed. And with these words, a beam of light slowly washes over you from the waters, cleansing you of fear and pain. The water is refreshing your spirit. And after a few minutes, the being bows to you and hands you a gift to carry back with you, a reminder of your divine strength. You bow your head in gratitude and slowly step out of the water. It is time to return. Your spirit animal is waiting on the shore to take you back to the forest. As you walk back, returning to the place where your spirit animal greeted you, you turn to him and give thanks as you part ways. You look up into the trees one last time before stepping out of the forest and returning to the present moment, feeling restored. Your fear is gone, your anxiety is gone. You're taking your gift with you, holding it. And as you come back, you can slowly begin to stretch your arms and wiggle your fingers and toes. And welcome back. And that was a very short meditation. I like to work with shorter meditations, especially if I don't know who is an experienced meditator. Plus, it's not when you first start to meditate, it's not recommended to jump into a long hour meditation. It's usually recommended to start with 1 minute to 2 minutes and slowly work your way through it. But I do hope you enjoyed that brief meditation. And I've included in the chat, and I don't know if anybody can see it, but I did include a PDF for some coping skills that we can go over. And I just added it again. And then if you are looking for meditation apps or just meditations to work with on your own, the ones that I recommend, and I mainly recommend these because they are free. YouTube is a great resource for meditations. Insight Timer is an app that has thousands of free meditations on it. And then there's also a paid membership if you want to go through it. And this one is called Oak, which, like Insight Timer, has a lot of free meditations, but then they also have a paid program if you want to go through that. I'm going to just stop sharing this. And if I can find the other one again. And then we could just go over the tips for sharing the document that I included. And some of the tips that we have, again, self-care, do something you love for you every single day. It doesn't matter if it's for 2 minutes or 5 minutes or an hour, just do something for you. Get some physical exercise, go for a walk, a run, cycling, do some cardio, do some weightlifting. Kickboxing or boxing for me is just great because to me, there's nothing better than getting your anger out in that way. Stretching, yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, anything that works for you, right? Don't worry about what the trends are. Do something that works for you. That's the most important thing. Have good eating habits. Processed foods slow us down. They increase our body's responses to stress and anxiety. Stress is not our friend. Anxiety can be our friend if we are in danger, but the type of anxiety we are talking about is not. Music promotes healing. It also gets you moving depending on what kind of music you're listening to. Writing. A lot of us at the beginning of the day sit down and we plan our days out and we make lists. Don't do that. I mean, do that, but don't do that for this purpose. Take a moment, whether it's at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, or any time in between, to write down your thoughts so you can have a better understanding of what you're feeling and why. Find some creative outlets. Like I said, paint, sculpting, color. We're adults. Coloring is fun. There are plenty of coloring books out there for adults. You can print coloring pages off the internet. It is a nice way to just take your mind off of everything. The breathing exercises, again, just the belly breathing, the diaphragmatic breathing, instantly reduces your heart rate and your blood pressure. Meditate. I put some writing prompts for you here, and this was a big one for me, is where did anxiety show up for me today? Right? When you're trying to understand your anxiety, that's the best question for you to ask yourself, because it will not only help you to understand your triggers, but it'll help you understand how you responded to those triggers. Write about what you did for yourself that day. Write about what you're grateful for. Every morning when I get up, the first thing I do is a gratitude ritual. I light a candle and I say thank you, whether it's for just waking up that day. I say thank you for my family, my friends, good things and bad things, right? Because even the things that are bad, there's always a lesson in there. And so I make sure that I say thank you for everything, every aspect of my life. And it helps. It definitely helps dealing with a lot of things going on. And then there are also some links to the free resources that I mentioned to you before. And yeah, so if anybody has any questions, I am happy to answer them.
Yeah, and feel free to put your questions in the chat, or since we're a fairly small group this evening due to the summer, I think it's fine to unmute and ask too. But I'll start, Vicki. So I'm terrible at staying focused during meditations, and even during the brief one that we did together, I had to kind of pull myself back. I was like, oh, what am I going to make for dinner when this wraps up? So how do you stay focused? What are your tips for keeping people kind of in the moment?
So the biggest thing is to understand that it is impossible to clear your mind, right? So when those thoughts come in, and the key is to acknowledge them and then refocus on your breath, right? The thoughts will never go away. There are practitioners who meditated for 20 years, 20, 40 years that still will tell you that every now and then there's that intrusive thought that comes in, and it's okay. If you're doing a guided meditation, it might help to just recenter your focus to that voice. But if you're doing it without guided meditation, then if you're focusing on your breathing, just go back to that. It's just a matter of just recentering and understanding that the thoughts are going to be there and it's okay. Just don't let the narrative play out is the key thing.
Fair enough. Okay. And Janet asks, how did you push yourself to exercise, especially kickboxing, during and after treatment when you're both tired and sick?
So I was kickboxing for about 4 or 5 years prior to my diagnosis. And when I was diagnosed, the owner of the gym that I was going to was ready to like put my membership on hold. And he was just like, that's it. And I turned around and I said, no, we can't do that. It's your job to keep me healthy. It's your job to keep me strong. And most of us, it is your job to keep me motivated. And he did. So what I did was I would take advantage of the steroids. Right.
Use them to your advantage
anyway, right? And I was going to be hyper from the steroids because they do make you very, very hyper. I'd have treatment on Wednesday, right? And so I'd be on the steroids until Thursday or Friday. So Wednesday I would come home and I would rest, but Thursday I would go to the gym and I would take all that energy from the steroids and I would kickbox. I would do weightlifting on days that I was just like, I can't mentally do the kickboxing. I would go in the back with the owner and we would do weightlifting. But I also listened to my body. You know, if something seemed too hard or I was tired, I wasn't going to do it. It was just, and all of the trainers knew what was going on. So they helped me to modify certain exercises so that I can keep going, right? If I was not going to run, they're like, all right, don't run. They had a rowing machine there. So while everybody else was running, I was off rowing because it was just easier for me. So it helped that I had an amazing team, amazing support in my gym to keep me going. Like I said, and I just listened to myself. I went from kickboxing 5 to 6 days a week to once a week because I paid attention to what was going on, but I was not going to let it stop me. And the only time I think I really stopped doing that was after my surgery. And I would still go into the gym just to be around the energy.
That's great. That's awesome. How often would you recommend meditating a week and for how long?
So I try to meditate every day, even if it's 5 minutes. I would recommend starting out maybe once a week. You know, like I said before, I would definitely, because meditation is a practice, right? You have to do it continuously in order to get better at it. The way I was taught was in mindful meditation, they teach you to start off with one breath, one focused breath, and then go to 2 breaths and 3 and slowly work it up to a minute. And so with each moment, you can extend it. So I would recommend starting off with 1 minute, just 1 minute. And then the next time you do it for 2 minutes. There are meditations, I know on Insight Timer, there are meditations that last 3 minutes long. Yeah. And then there are other meditations that last an hour and a half. Those are more advanced. So it's just, but definitely I would start once a week, twice a week. I honestly believe that we all meditate every single day without knowing, right? When we are really, really frustrated and we put ourselves in timeout, right? It's meditating. And I think that's the other thing that people don't understand is that there are different types of meditation. There are so many different types of meditation. Yoga, which we all look at as a form of exercise, is really a form of meditation. Tai Chi and Qigong are also forms of meditation. While they're physical forms, they're active forms, but there are active meditations. There are walking meditations. If you can sit and just quiet yourself, whether it's one of the reasons I said the creative outlets, right? The painting, drawing, coloring, we don't realize at those moments we're putting ourselves in a meditative state, right? So you have to really find what works for you. I have a friend who's always telling me, I can't meditate. I don't know how to meditate. I was like, don't you sit on your fire escape and just stare at the sky for like an hour? And she's like, yes. I was like, you're meditating, you know, but we don't realize it. You know, anything that we are getting lost in where we can shut our mind out for a moment is a form of meditation.
That's awesome. So earlier in the presentation, you talked about kind of how anxiety manifests itself. And for me, I get really grumpy when I'm anxious, and I'm not very nice and pleasant to be around. And I understand the idea of kind of like stepping away and taking a moment and kind of regrouping. But how do you handle, or how would you recommend handling situations like that where it's not always practical to step away and have a moment? You know, you're in the moment and you have to kind of circle back.
So my first thing, and anybody that knows me at Share from the office would tell you, I have a very, very big habit of letting out a huge sigh. And everybody that has known me, that has seen me do this, they're like, we heard you sigh from down the hall. And I'm like, I needed a moment. Because I felt my anxiety getting, increasing, right?
Mhm.
Especially taking, New York City subways. My anxiety would increase. And before I started anything else, I just needed to stop and take that moment and let out that one big sigh, and it would just decrease. But you're right, it's hard when you're in the middle of it to just be like, okay.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's exactly what we have to do. We have to stop talking in the middle of the sentence and just like, okay. And the other thing I always have a habit of doing with my hand is like pulling from the bottom, right? So Reiki is energy healing. So I have a tendency to pull energy from the bottom and then pull it back down. And that, for me, it centers me, and that keeps me grounded. So that puts me back in the moment.
I was going to ask you if you could explain a little bit more about Reiki. That was going to be one of my next questions, just because I'm not terribly familiar with it, and maybe some others aren't either.
Sure. So what Reiki is, it is a Japanese energy healing art. It was discovered, I use that term loosely, because it is energy healing, and people have been using energy healing from the beginning of time. Shamanism is the oldest form of energy healing. But Dr. Usui, who is accredited to being the founder of Reiki, he was a Buddhist monk. He went on a 21-day fast in, I can't remember the mountain right now, but during that time, he discovered, the story goes, and this is, I said story because just like everything else, unless you're actually there, you don't know what the facts are, but the story goes is that while he was on this 21-day fast in the mountain, he felt a beam of energy come through his head and into his body, right? Later on, as he was coming back down the mountain, he ended up hitting his foot. And this is just a story, I don't know how true it is, that he touched his foot and all of a sudden the pain went away, right? So I'm sure a lot of us have heard of touch therapy. I'm sure all of us have heard the power of prayer, right? It's all similar, right? So Reiki specifically Reiki means universal life force, right? So a practitioner becomes the conduit of that, just like an electric wire, right? Like, yeah. And we are drawing that energy down through us. And usually if it's in person, it's coming out through our hands into that person. And you can generally feel like a buzzing or something, but it's not massage. It's literally like, here's your hand. This is the person, this is the practitioner. You're just going here. And there are positions throughout the body. You start at the head or the feet and go through certain points on the body that help to realign the energy. But what it does is that as the energy is flowing through the practitioner into the client, it's not that we're healing, again, we're just the conduit. That energy allows your body to heal itself. So I have, besides dealing with stress and anxiety, because I'm just a very empathic person, we don't diagnose anything, but when I feel energy kind of being stuck, it changes the temperature in the person's body. And so there have been times that I'm like, your knee is like really cold. Is everything okay with it? And I've been told no, like everything's fine. There's no problems with it, only to be told a few weeks later, how did you know? I had something going on with my knee, so, and even distantly, I've done it where not fully knowing what was going on with the person, but somebody, when I first started, I did a healing session with somebody in distance, and I knew they were stressed and it was for anxiety. They asked me to help them with the anxiety. And when we were done, how the distance healing works is either I'll do it Zoom like this, or a phone call. We'll talk before it. I'll get them set up, and then I'll do what I do, and then I'll call them afterwards just to go over what I felt. And the person I was doing it with, she's like, right before you contacted me to say you were done, I felt a knot in my stomach just pop. And their anxiety just completely went away. Yeah, so it's energy healing. I like to look at it as an extension of love, right? It's just putting the universal love into somebody else to help them heal, because there is no greater healer than that, right? So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Who else has questions? Okay, what resources do you recommend for people who are new to meditation and trying to get into it? Are there any retreats or ways to find practitioners that would be good to go to?
So I would recommend starting, because they're starting with books. There is, I should have wrote these down, but there is a book that my doctor recommended about mindful meditation, and I can't remember the name of it though. But what I'll do, Nancy, when I get the name of it, I will let you know.
Okay, and I'll share it with everybody.
But there is a book called Meditation as Medicine that is very helpful. As far as looking up practitioners, you can really Google just meditation classes in your area. Gilda's Club. Gilda's Club has free classes. They're amazing. I've done a lot of meditations with them. Mary's Place by the Sea, if anybody knows about them, they do a lot of meditation work online. So there are options too. The apps that I mentioned before, Insight Timer, Oak, Headspace, these are all great. Yes, Janet is correct. They do have Reiki and meditation classes. As far as retreats go, I always recommend the Omega Institute. That's here in New York State, in Rhinebeck, New York. It is an amazing retreat. It's highly affordable. They offer scholarships. Krupalo Meditation Center is another great retreat center. Any place in Sedona, Arizona, Joshua's Tree, California. These are all very spiritual places that you can find a lot of healing at if you want to go that route, but meditation, the beautiful thing about meditation is that it's not something that you have to spend money on. So, we have enough expenses when dealing with cancer. Which is why when I talk about it, I try to focus on what is available and affordable. Yeah, I mean, there are so many places that you can get information and practitioners. Yep, the YouTube videos, like I mentioned earlier. I'm trying to think of more. I mean, that's all I can think of for now, but there's just so many.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I have another question. So, again, just kind of circling back to anxiety, how do you recommend people keep themselves from going to, the really dark places? Or if they go to the dark places, how do you recommend clawing your way out of them? Because it's probably safe to say that we've all been to those dark places.
Yes. I think that takes time to learn yourself and learn what your triggers are. I think the best thing to do is when you're feeling yourself go there, remind yourself that you're healthy, right? I kind of like to remind myself of all the other things that I've been through in my life. And I'm like, well, if I can get through that, I can get through this. I try to focus more on the achievements, right? But I'm also forgiving when I have setbacks.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the important thing, is understanding that it's okay to have setbacks. It's okay to have bad days. I mean, I had one recently where I spent the entire day, I turned my phone off. I was like, I'm not talking to anybody today, and I'm just going to sit on my couch and cry and watch Hallmark and let myself cry more because that's what I needed, right?
Yep.
And that comes back to the self-care. We have to acknowledge that there are times that we need those days, and we are allowed those days. And I know that like some of us have kids, and it's harder to do that when you have little kids, but again, it's a matter of, I pull myself back by reminding myself that I'm alive, I'm breathing, and and because I work with energy so much, I also remember, I can remember that where I'm putting my focus, the energy that I'm putting my focus on, that is what I'm manifesting into my life, right? So if I'm going to sit and worry about how frightening everything is or what I don't have, I'm just inviting more of that into my life.
Yeah.
So I think for me, and what I always recommend is the gratitude rituals. Like I said, before you get up in the morning, and I'm sure everybody has heard someone say this, when you wake up in the morning, say thank you. Have that tiny bit of gratitude that you even woke up that morning. You might have pains, you might be exhausted, you might have the anxiety, but still be thankful. And then the other thing, and this is something that took me a long time to learn, is when something does trigger my anxiety, is to ask what it is trying to teach me. Right? Because our triggers are always teaching us and letting us know that there is something that we have not healed from yet. So to try to understand that always helps with anxiety, because the next time it comes around, you can say, oh, wait, this is happening because X, Y, and Z happened a while ago, and I've dealt with that situation. So now I can view this situation differently.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great feedback. We get so much pressure to stay positive and, keep marching forward, which I think is great advice, but it's also important to acknowledge that is not always practical.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's great. Yeah. Janet also says that Brene Brown, Maya Batik breakdown podcasts are also helpful, talking about anxiety. So that's a great tip as well, Janet. Thank you.
Yeah, those are definitely, and I think there was another question that popped up as well.
What's the best time of day to meditate?
Anytime that feels comfortable to you, to be honest with you. They say that the best time to meditate is first thing in the morning, usually at sunrise, but realistically, how many of us are getting up that early? I try to meditate when I wake up, and I try to meditate before I go to bed. If my anxiety kicks up, I will stop because I have the pleasure right now of having the time to say, okay, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and meditate. But so I'll do it as soon as I start feeling my anxiety kick up. Even when I was working in an office, when I was working in sales many years ago, I would get anxious and I would stop everything that I was doing and I would close my eyes and I would meditate. And I know people didn't like it, but I wasn't worried about it because I needed to take care of myself so I can continue being productive. And so, but definitely early morning, late at night.
Yeah. Sounds like there's no bad time, right?
No.
Yeah.
No, it's just like I said, like is there ever a bad time to pray?
Yeah, fair.
You know, is there ever a bad time to just say like, you know, there's never a bad time to take a moment for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It might not be better, you know, it might not be a great time for other people, but the key thing is to remember that you're not responsible for how other people are reacting. You're only responsible for yourself. And if you need to take that moment for yourself to recenter and ground yourself for whatever reason, that is okay to do. Don't do it in the middle of the street, obviously. You know, but if you are having a moment where your anxiety is increasing, take that moment and focus on you for 10 seconds.
Yeah. Awesome. Anybody else have any other questions? We've got a few more minutes if there are other questions or comments. All right. Well, Vicki, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this and for all the great information. Thanks to everybody for attending and submitting questions. We will meet again on August 17th. And in the meantime, don't hesitate to reach out if we can be of assistance. But thanks again, Vicki. This was really incredible. We appreciate all of your time.
Thank you so much for letting me do this. It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Have a great evening. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.